Hello everyone, let's continue our lecture on travel. Let me show you the outline for today. The focus for the first part will be the new TED Talk, Happy Maps, and we will do some practice to check your comprehension. And the other focus will be more practice on present and past participles. Okay, now I would like you to turn your book to page 28. This is the fifth TED Talk we have watched. And for the previous talks, we have picked up several listening skills from them. For instance, from the talk, this app knows how you feel, we learn how to listen to content words. From the talk on 10 ways to have a better communication, we learn how to listen to fast speech. And from the talk on why the best hire might not have the best resume, we learn how to listen to contrast. And from the fifth talk today, Happy Maps, we need to learn how to understand accents. If you take a look at the upper left on page 28, here, you will see a section called Understanding Accents. When you travel abroad or listen to people on TV and the internet, you will hear foreign and regional accents in English. It's helpful to practice listening to different accents so you can enjoy listening to people from all over the world. And the accent we need to practice listening to is an Italian accent. Usually when Italian people speak English, they tend to pronounce the ending sound of each word. For example, when they say feeling, they will say feeling, or when they say sound, they will say sound. You will be able to recognize this when you listen to the speaker, Danielle Crucia, later. Okay, so whenever we listen to a talk, we must pay attention to the delivery of the speaker. Does he speak fast? Does he use any visual aids to interact with the audience? Or does he tell jokes? And for the content, what are the main ideas and what are the examples the speaker uses? And finally, you always need to put everything you listen to into perspective, which means you need to challenge the speaker's argument. Do you fully agree with his point? If not, why not? If you do, what are the convincing examples? Alright, now before we listen to the introduction, let's pick up some words. First, confession comes from the verb to confess. To confess means to admit that you have done something wrong. And usually people associate confession with a church. If you go to a church, you will see small rooms on the sides of the church. And those rooms are what we call the confession rooms. In the confession room, you can meet up with the priest, and the priest will listen to what you have done wrong anonymously. Cult is a religious group whose beliefs are considered strange or extreme. In other words, cults are usually considered negative. I will show you a famous example in American history later. And detour is a different or less direct route to a place. Again, you see the vocabulary from the previous lecture. For instance, you usually take Zhongzheng Road to go to Fuda. But today, there is an accident on Zhongzheng Road. Then you take another road, let's say, let me make up a name. Road A. Then road A will be a less direct route to Fuda. Then road A is the detour. And shame is something that makes you feel disappointed or unsatisfied. And opposed means completely different. Okay, now let's listen to the introduction. So today, I will do it this way. And for every TED Talk, remember to download the transcript from Trunk Class. You can either fill in the transcript while I play you the video now, or you can fill it in after the lecture to help you review. Okay, let's get started.
I have a confession to make. As a scientist and engineer, I've focused on efficiency for many years. But efficiency can be a cult. And today, I'd like to tell you about a journey that moved me out of the cult and back to a far richer reality. A few years ago, after finishing my PhD in London, I moved to Boston. I lived in Boston and worked in Cambridge. I bought a racing bicycle that summer, and I bicycled every day to work. To find my way, I used my phone. It sent me over Mass Ave, Massachusetts Avenue, the shortest road from Boston to Cambridge. But after a month that I was cycling every day on the car park Mass Ave, I took a different road one day. I'm not entirely sure why I took a different road that day, a detour. I just remember a feeling of surprise. Surprise at finding a street with no cars, as opposed to the nearby Mass Ave full of cars. Surprise at finding a street draped by the leaves and surrounded by trees. But after the feeling of surprise, I felt shame. How could I have been so blind? For an entire month, I was trapped in my mobile app that the journey to work became one thing only: the shortest path. In this single journey, there was no thought of enjoying the road, no pleasure in connecting with nature, no possibility of looking people in the eyes. And why? Because I was saving a minute out of my commute.
Alright, let's unpack what this section is about. So from the beginning, we know this Italian speaker is a scientist and engineer, and in his field of expertise, efficiency is what he pays attention to or what he values. But he points out a problem, which is efficiency can be a cult. What does it mean? It means usually people think the more efficient we do our jobs, the better. This might be not true. Okay, usually this is what people believe. So he challenges this belief, and he uses his detour to prove us that this belief is wrong, and there is actually a far richer reality there. And he describes his commute from home to work, right? And one day he took a different route, a detour that moved him from his usual path. And on this detour, he saw trees, a different scenery that shocked him. And it makes him come to the realization that, oh, wow, I have ignored so many things that are just around me. For his everyday journey, it is always about how fast he can get to his destination. It's never about enjoying a moment of appreciating the view around him. So that's why he says no pleasure at all. And the journey is all about saving a minute out of his commute. Okay, so from the introduction, we know the argument is the speaker wants to prove us a richer reality through his experience of taking a detour, and he is going to explain a lot more later. Before we continue to watch the talk, okay, Let me show you an example of the famous cult in American history. It's called the Jonestown Massacre. So Jonestown is a village where a group of people follow the footsteps of a religious leader. And this religious leader told them that by drinking poison, you can go to heaven. And hundreds of them follow his direction and die altogether. So this is the most violent and famous cult in American history. And a very famous TV series called American Horror Stories re-dramatize it in its production. If you are interested, I will give you a link on Trunk Class. Okay, so let's learn a bit more. So game changer, when something is a game changer, it means it changes the result of a situation completely. And data mining is a term that means the examination of a large amount of data to look for patterns or changes. So when we do online shopping, the shopping platform is actually analyzing our data so that it understands what we need, and when we swipe our phones, we will be fed advertisement about the products that we have looked for. So this is all a result of data mining. And colleague is the people whom you work with. They are also called your co-workers. Consensus, it means an agreement among the general public. So a general accepted opinion or decision. Assume means to accept something to be true without confirming it further. And replicate means to copy. And emerge means to appear. Handful means a small number of something. And definitive means not to be questioned or changed. Captivated means you are attracted by something a lot. Urban means in the city. Crowdsourcing is another term. It means the activity of giving tasks to the public. For crowdsourcing and data mining, I will use other examples to help you understand them better. Now let's continue to watch the talk.
Now, let me ask you, am I alone in here? How many of you have never used a mapping app for finding directions? Most of you, if not all, have. And don't get me wrong, mapping apps are the greatest game changers for encouraging people to explore the city. You take your phone out and you know immediately where to go. However, the app also assumes there are only a handful of directions to destination. It has the power to make those handful of directions the definitive direction to that destination. After that experience, I changed. I changed my research from traditional data mining to understanding how people experience the city. I use computer science tools to replicate social science experiments at scale, at web scale. I became captivated by the beauty and genius of traditional social science experiments done by Jane Jacobs, Stanley Milgram, Kevin Lynch. The result of that research has been the creation of new maps. Maps where you don't only find the shortest path, the blue one, but also the most enjoyable path, the red one. How was that possible? Einstein once said, logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. So with a bit of imagination, we needed to understand which parts of the city people find beautiful. At the University of Cambridge, with colleagues, we thought about this simple experiment. If I were to show you these two urban scenes and I would ask you which one is more beautiful, which one would you say? Don't be shy. Who says A? Who says B? Brilliant. Based on that idea, we built a crowdsourcing platform, a web game. Players are shown pairs of urban scenes and they're asked to choose which one is more beautiful, quiet, and happy. Based on thousands of user votes, then we are able to see where consensus emerges. We're able to see which are the urban scenes that make people happy.
Alright, let's unpack this section. So from this section, we know that mapping apps are game changer in the way people look for directions and give directions. But mapping apps also suggest definitive direction to destination. For example, if you want to go to Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall, it will only give you one option. It will not give you multiple options for you to choose from. Okay, so this is what the speaker means by those handful of direction, the definitive direction to that destination. So that's why he comes up with a crowdsourcing app. Okay, so crowdsourcing. What is crowdsourcing? So this is an example of crowdsourcing. This is called the sheep market. So a group of artists, wants everyone to draw different sheeps, for them online. So the artist doesn't need to spend time coming up with different kinds of sheep. Instead, he asked the public to join his art project to help him complete the work. So this is an example of crowdsourcing. You ask the public to help you solve a problem or complete a project. So the same here. What did he ask people to do? Online, he asked viewers to choose from 2 images, and they are asked to choose the more beautiful images, and then they collect the results. They collect the results. So this is what he does. What he does. So from the results, they will know the places that make people happy, and altogether they become enjoyable paths people enjoy taking. And data mining. An example of data mining will be personality test. People all enjoy taking personality tests or tests about star signs, right? So whenever you take those tests, your data are being transferred to the platform, and the platform will know your interest after their analysis. And in the future, you will see more personality tests in the feed of your Facebook or in between the short stories on Instagram. So these are all results of data mining. So let's learn more from the speaker's app. But before we do that, we need to pick up a few words. So segments means a small part of something big. And cartography means the art of making, maps or drawing maps. Aesthetics means the formal study of art. And satire is a way of criticizing things in a humorous way. And fabricated meaning something that is produced to deceive. So to deceive means to tell lies. Team up means to form a group. Aggregate means to bring different things together. And attach something to means to join one thing to another. So what do we usually do when we write an email? We attach Word files or images to that email. Now let's finish the talk together.
After that work, I joined Yahoo Labs and I team up with Luca and Rossano. And together we aggregated those winning locations in London to build a new map of the city. A cartography weighted for human emotions. On this cartography, you're not only able to see and connect from point A to point B, the shortest segments, but you're also able to see the happy segment, the beautiful path, the quiet path. In tests, participants found the happy, the beautiful, the quiet path far more enjoyable than the shortest one. And that just by adding a few minutes to travel time. participants also love to attach memories to places. Shared memories, that's where the old BBC building was. And personal memories, that's where I gave my first kiss. They also recalled how some paths smelled and sounded. So what if we had a mapping tool that would return the most enjoyable routes based not only on aesthetics, but also based on smell, sound, and memories? That's where our research is going right now. More generally, my research what tries to do is to avoid the danger of the single path, to avoid robbing people of fully experiencing the city in which they live. Walk the path through the park, not through the car park, and you have an entirely different path. Walk the path full of people you love and not full of cars, and you have an entirely different path. It's that simple. I would like to end with this thought. Do you remember The Truman Show? It's a media satire in which a real person doesn't know he's living in a fabricated world. Perhaps we live in a world fabricated for efficiency. Look at some of your daily habits, and as Truman did in a movie, escape the fabricated world. Why? Well, if you think that adventure is dangerous, try routine. It's deadly. Thank you.
Alright, so from the last part of the talk, we learn more about how the apps works, right? So based on the results they collected from their crowdsourcing apps, they create a map weighted for human emotions. How is it a map made up of human emotions? Because in that crowdsourcing app, people were asked to choose the places that gives them good memories or places that they consider more beautiful. So as you can see from the images given by the speaker, this app can give you the shortest path as usual, and it can also give you the quietest or the happiest or the most enjoyable path. Okay, and he concludes by telling us that we might be living in a world fabricated for efficiency, and this kind of world takes away our opportunity to experience the city fully. Okay, so he ends with the remark about the Truman Show. Okay, so I will also give you the link to that movie trailer. So in the end, he proposes that everyone should take different routes, take detours, because routine can be deadly, and routine can also be a cult because it makes us miss the opportunity to look around what is surrounded by us. Okay? So this is The Truman Show. I will give you the link to that movie trailer.